Thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Jordan Webster and I do workforce development and government affairs with the Kansas City Home Builders Association. We are also a member of the Northland Education Business Alliance, or NEBA. NEBA is a network of education and business organizations in Clay and Platte counties whose vision is to promote and provide business-driven educational opportunities for you, our next generation, and our next generation of business leaders. I will be your host during the session, and I have another NEBA member with me, Courtney Reyes, who also does government affairs and workforce development for the Kansas City Home Builders. Just a few quick notes before we get started, and I introduce our first guest speaker. This session will run for 40 minutes with a hard stop at 8:45. Our industry experts will begin by sharing their professional history and insight, but we want this to feel more like a conversation. So at the bottom of your screen, you should see an option to the Q&A feature. We encourage you to use that space to post any questions you might have at any point in the session. We might not be able to get to all of them, but we will absolutely do our best. When the session ends, you'll be asked to take a very short survey, and please give us any feedback that you might have so we can get better at doing these events in the future. Last but not least, this session will be recorded and available all online in the near future. So without further ado, let's get started. I will go ahead and introduce our first speaker, and I'll let her tell you a little bit about herself. Julia, would you like to take it away?
Sure. Hi, all. I am Julia Krucco. I currently work for a company called StandardAero that we basically repair airplane engine parts. So a manufacturing repair shop. Not sure how far you want me to go back, but basically I got it. My education is a bachelor's degree in communication studies. I got out of college and unfortunately only could find jobs in retail and apartment management and things like that. And then realized I kind of liked those classes that I took that were in HR. So I found an HR coordinator job and I was able to get that. And I've just kind of since then worked into management. I've been in the medical field. I've been in a call center. I've been in legal services. I've been in manufacturing, which again is where I started and where I'm back to now. I really like it a lot. Most of my career has been in small to medium-sized company where usually I am the only HR person or one of few HR people. When I was about 20 years into my career, I decided to get my master's degree in human resource management, so I was more specialized. And I liked school a lot better then because I was grown at that point and understood why I wanted to get a degree. So that's about it for me.
All right. Thank you, Julia. And we'll have some questions here in a little bit. Chantel?
Well, good morning. My name is Chantel Garrett, and I am the manager of diversity and inclusion at the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City. And I have had the pleasure actually of working with Northland CAPS in my previous role. So I used to be in the mayor's office. Mayor Sly James oversaw the Office of Civic and Community Engagement. So I had some wonderful interns from Northland CAPS while I was in that role. So I'm very familiar with this organization. A little bit about me. I have an undergrad degree in marketing and management information systems. I have a master's in management and nonprofit leadership. So you're probably wondering, how did I get in diversity and inclusion? So I've always been in community engagement roles, community development, external relations. And when the opportunity became available to come into BNI, I was very passionate about ensuring that there was diversity, but also equity and access in financial services industry. So I am very pleased to be here with you. I look forward to serving on this panel.
Thank you, Chantel. Jerry?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jerry Hickey. I'm the owner of Express Employment Professionals here in North Kansas City. and we're a recruiting and staffing company. So if you don't know, and I know I've had the opportunity to speak to many of you in Northland Caps, and actually had a daughter of my own go through the program. So I'm a huge fan. So some of you may have heard my spiel here before, but at Express, our job is to help people find jobs. And we cover a lot of ground. I mean, if you look at the businesses that make up, particularly the Northland of Kansas City, we tend to work with all those different types of businesses. On any given week, we probably work with 80 different companies and probably have around 300 people out working at these companies. They come to us looking for help in recruiting and staffing the employees they need. And we have people who come to our office who are looking for jobs. And so we try to, find a good match for them and get them out into a position that's going to be a good fit for them. A little bit about my past. I'm originally from the St. Louis area, St. Charles, actually, and went to college at Missouri State. I was a business major. And after that, I got on with, kind of right out of college, I got on with Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. Probably heard them. They've been in the news a lot lately because of the vaccine. And I spent almost 17 years with them and moved around quite a bit. Moved to Little Rock, Arkansas. Well, started in Springfield, moved to Little Rock, and then moved up to the Northeast. We lived in Connecticut and New Jersey for a while. And I got tired of moving my family around. My wife's from Omaha, so we thought Kansas City would be a good spot. So we moved here back in 2011, and we opened Express in 2013. So it's been a great run. But having working with so many different types of companies and having so many people out in these companies, it gives us a really good purview of what the labor market is doing.
Perfect. Thank you, Jerry. So we kind of have just a few questions, so we'll just kind of go through the line again. I'll start with you, Julia. Would you mind just telling us some details about what your typical day would look like?
Oh, sure. I don't have a typical day, which is part of what I really like about my job. But I could have people in and out of my office all day, whether it be, supporting managers, helping employees with questions, doing investigations, helping somebody log on to their benefits so that they can answer questions. Or I could sit in front of my computer all day and I could do reporting and sit in meetings and, it just really varies. A lot of focus on, not only what does my management team need, but what do the employees need, so that we can, meet the needs of the company. So I really don't have a typical day, but really it's all about either supporting managers or supporting employees. And those are usually two different, completely different skill sets, I guess. But, a lot of computer time, a lot of sitting at a desk, and then a lot of talking to people. That's the gist of it. I don't have a typical day, so it's hard to say.
Okay, Chantel, same question.
There is no typical day. So I echo Julia, and every day is different. So in my work, I am in diversity and inclusion, but the uniqueness about my role is that I don't sit in the HR function. So when many people think about the work of diversity and inclusion, they think of someone who is within the division or function of HR. So within my organization, our diversity and inclusion is within community development. So we sit within an umbrella division of community engagement and inclusion. And a part of that is diversity and inclusion. So I really have a unique sweet spot where I have internal work and engagement, where we're producing programs and working on policies and practices to make sure that we have inclusive hiring practices and working in partnership with our HR and our talent acquisition people, but then also having an external facing role with our collaborative partners that we work with to ensure that we're building mutually beneficial relationships, that we are allowing our partners to come in and access our resources, our research, our materials, and when we were in person, our actual facilities, and then in turn, them sharing our job opportunities and giving more exposure to who the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City is. And so every day is different, which is a part of what I love. I love new challenges and new opportunities. A part of that is developing and coaching a staff. And so that's a part of my daily responsibilities, but ensuring that we have sound policies and practices around diversity and inclusion, and that we're continuously striving to be a best in class organization when it comes to that.
Great, thank you, Chantel. Jerry, same question.
Well, being a small business owner, you learn fast. You wear a lot of different hats. I've got quite an education over the last 7 years of things that that I didn't have to know, being in a kind of a specific industry for so long. So you don't know which hat you're going to put on in that day. I mean, sometimes I'm always a coach, right, to my team, but some days I have to play accountant. Although I'm not I just work with my accountant. I'm not the accountant. That would be bad. But I've always got my firefighter suit ready, because there's always a fire that comes up, something you got to put that requires addressing. When you've got, again, that many people, Julia's got a big team there, and if you got enough employees, there's always going to be something that goes wrong. There's always going to be something to address. Really the day, I mean, I certainly come into a day with a structure. I mean, we have a morning meeting every morning to make sure everybody on our team is on the same page, because in any business, if you don't have a good form and method for communicating and ensure that you're communicating effectively, you're going to have problems. So we always start our day, our team gets together, we talk about the open job orders we have, we talk about the talent that we have that we're looking to place and what might be a good fit for them. And from that, it's really what are the priorities for the day. And that is going to change, like Julie and Chantel said, every day, which is, again, it's a great thing. It makes days go by fast, keeps you on your toes, and it keeps a challenge out in front of you, which I think is important, regardless of what you choose to do. You need to have something that's challenging you, or you're going to get bored fast.
Thank you, Jerry. So with that in mind, one of our actual next question is, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face in your profession? Julia?
I think, the biggest challenge with being in HR as a manager is probably walking that fine line, which is really the best part about being in HR, in my opinion, but walking that fine line between supporting the company and supporting the employee, because there are times when those two things do not match at all. The company has to do, for this year, we've done furloughs and we've done layoffs, and, that's really hard. So that kind of stuff, anything that where, the company isn't matching. I would say probably the most challenging jobs that I've had have been companies where, when I've worked for a company that does not consider their employees to be an asset. And unfortunately, I have worked for a couple different companies like that. And as an HR person, when you're trying to balance that, there is no balance. So it makes it very hard. But, I would say stuff like, having to let people go when it's not their fault, when like we've had to do this year, has probably been one of the most challenging things we have to do as an HR person.
Okay, Chantel?
I think for me right now, some of the challenges, so currently we're in a state of social unrest, especially it was heightened after the unfortunate death of George Floyd. And so I think that brought attention to a lot of the racial inequities and challenges within organizations. Whether it's corporate, nonprofit, it really didn't matter. It really brought to light some of the challenges that are really happening in organizations. And so now this has really been an opportunity for people to really learn, grow, and understand, and figure out how we can dismantle some of those systemic barriers that have been placed into various organizations. And so making sure that we not only talk about diversity, but are really making headways and strides to make sure that our organizations are racially, ethnically diverse, because we know that organizations that are high performing, bring diversity of thought, are more innovative. And so making sure that there's not also diversity, but then when people get there, that they have a sense of belonging. So changing cultures and organizations is currently a challenge that I believe many organizations and institutions are being intentional with making sure that they are changing their organizations and policies and practices and cultures to make sure that they're cognizant, aware, and transformational in this area.
Wonderful. Thanks, Chantel. Jerry?
So I'll kind of answer that in two parts. So from, I've got my own internal team here of 9 internal employees that work for me here at Express, and then from what we do, so the people that we staff that are out working. So internally, and to kind of tag on to what Chantel was saying, I'm a big believer in having a diverse team. I want people from diverse backgrounds, diverse ways of thinking, diverse experiences in life, because I think it makes your team that much better. But with that does come challenges, right? And that can result in conflict. And a little bit of conflict is good. I want people challenging each other. If everybody just thinks like me, that doesn't really help me very much. I want people to be able to openly be able to challenge, what we think is what is working, and other people may have a better way of or have ideas of how we can improve that. And I want us to be able to have dialogue on that. But that as a leader, that becomes a little challenging to manage, to ensure that doesn't spill over, that things don't get personal. And so setting that culture is easier said than done sometimes, but it's something I certainly value and make sure happens here at Express. So externally, so the people that we're placing out, and it's the hardest part about the staffing business. And I tell people when they're coming to interview with me to be a part of our team, is that you have to have a pretty thick skin, because every day you're going to be disappointed. Every day. We get a lot of people who come to us who, clearly need a job or desperate for a job. Usually they'll give you the whole story on what a desperate situation they're in, which is fine. And we work really hard to match them to something that's going to work with their time schedule, with their transportation issues, and their skill set, and the wage that they really want. And so we try to find something that's going to be a really good fit for them, and we'll place them in that job. And there's a lot of people who just don't make their job, whatever it is, a high enough priority in their life to be successful. And so they end up having, huge attendance issues. They'll have, they're not a good coworker because they always, seem to have conflicts with people with whom they're working. And no matter what we do for those folks, they're not going to gain any traction in their career, because they're going to be starting over and over, because they habitually get fired or many times quit a job. So they're always the new person, and dealing with that is challenging. Not just to us, it's challenging to our clients that we place people out of. And I'm sure Julia can say, they see the same issues at PAS, where the 3 things that typically burn people up and create more roadblocks for themselves than anything else are attendance issues, and just an attitude towards work issue, which I kind of put it in a kind of encapsulated as just what kind of a priority is work, your job, and your life, because it has to be a high one. Because if it's somewhere 4th or 5th down on the list, you're going to struggle no matter what. And that's a really hard thing for us to work with every day.
Thanks, Jerry. So first, for everyone, for all the attendees on here, just a reminder that you can go in the Q&A and ask questions. I'm actually going, so we have essentially the same question from Ben and Sarah, but could you guys describe, the top traits that a high school student can develop that makes them more employable once they graduate or into the workforce? Julia?
I think that to be in HR, I guess I can answer the question that way easier than answering the question, but, and I know Jerry will have a very good answer for this question.
No, sure. Maybe you could answer it like twofold. Talk about, what are the traits you look for if someone wants to get into HR, as well as traits that you look for just when you're interviewing someone, even if it's not necessarily their experience, but just like personal.
Yeah. So definitely someone who, we always have, when we're looking for anybody, they have to be willing to learn. They have to be a team player. So, get along with other people, be open to ideas, things like that. And then, I haven't done hiring in so long. I'm trying to remember, but in HR in general, you really have to just be flexible. Like I said, the job's different every day. So, and that's probably true in most any job. You're going to come across people that you get along with. You're going to come across people you don't, but you still have to work with them every day. So you have to be flexible. As an HR person, you really have to be able to play devil's advocate. You have to be a teacher and a trainer. So again, back to that being open to learning. If you're not open to learning yourself and improving yourself, you're not going to be able to help other people with training. And then back to that, that ability to, be a team player. I have to be able to communicate with the president of the company, but I also have to be able to communicate with my brand new entry-level employee. So out of school, the things that I guess I hope you would come to me with would be good communication skills, being flexible and open, but also being open to following the rules. Unfortunately, I get sometimes young folks in there that don't do that. So that's about the extent of what I can think of off the top of my head.
That's perfect. Thank you. Chantel?
Yeah, I would say top 3 for me, and this goes hand in hand. So 1, strong written and communication skills, written and verbal. Are definitely a skill set that will make you a strong candidate and a standout employee. And I know texting is how we communicate, but shorthand texting doesn't go far in business writing. So really develop some strong written and verbal communication skills, presentation skills, practice those. Be someone that is coachable. So going back to Julia, kind of following the rules, but somebody who's willing to take feedback and not take it personal, but understand that the feedback that you're getting from your manager or supervisor is from somebody who hopefully has your best interest in mind and wants to see you succeed in your professional development goals. So be coachable, be willing to take feedback, and be willing to make it applicable, and hopefully it's actionable so you can take the steps to be better and enhance your skill sets. And then the last one I would say is to understand what emotional intelligence is. So I'm not going to give you that. I'm going to trust that you're going to Google and research what emotional intelligence is, but trust me, these will be good skill sets to have as you go about your career, understanding that high emotional intelligence is a great complement to intellectual intelligence. So those would be my top three.
Thank you, Chantel. Jerry?
Well, those were really good, and I agree with everything that's been said so far. And some of what I'll say will kind of overlap with that, and goes, but you'll probably hear me say it again before we get off this. But I always say, regardless of what career you're going into, whether you're going into to go into a skilled trade, or whether you're going to go on and become an accountant, or whatever it is, there's a core of professionalism that is going to differentiate you and what is expected in the workplace for successful people. And I always call them the 3 A's, and it is attendance, right? Become a really highly dependable person. Employers, it's got, at this point, what we see is probably the most valued thing that we see out there. We see people get promoted all the time for really no other reason than the fact that they were the person that was there every day. They may not be the best, they may not be the most talented, but they were super dependable. So become a really dependable person. The second thing is, you've heard me say it, but it's attitude. And I say attitude, it's about just having a positive attitude, and that doesn't mean that you walk in and you got to keep a smile on your face all day, although everybody likes smiles. But it's about having a positive attitude towards what you're doing, towards your coworkers, being solution-based. Someone who comes in and complains all the time about what's wrong with their boss, what's wrong with their coworkers, what's wrong with the break room, what's wrong with the machinery they're using, the employers are not going to keep them around long. Instead, be a solution-based person. Employers value that. And then finally is what we call aptitude. And that was, I think, getting to what Chantel and Julie said, and your willingness to learn. It's amazing how often employers will call us looking for people, and we try to start getting a job description from them. And we'll be in the middle of it, and they'll kind of stop and they'll say, you know what? If you can just find me somebody who will be here every day and have a positive attitude, I can teach them everything they need to know. Because if you got the first two, employers are willing to invest in you and make sure that you need to learn. They'll put more challenges in front of you. You'll be the person getting promoted. But you've got to have that willingness to listen and learn. If you got those three things, you're going to be off to a great start, and regardless of what you do.
Wonderful, thank you. So kind of one of our last questions that we have, and then if any of the attendees want to ask questions, please send them in the Q&A, because we're just in our last 10 minutes or so. So this is kind of a fun one. Like, what do you love most about what you do? And kind of coinciding with that, what's the most rewarding thing? So those kind of go hand in hand. But Julia?
Well, it's just what we've been talking about this whole time. It's being there, supporting our team, supporting the employees. You get into HR because you love people. So whatever that entails, that's what makes it rewarding. And sometimes it's the little things. Yesterday, I had an employee who was having trouble with the state of Illinois where they used to live, and they just needed to fax a form, and they just did not know how to fax a form. So I helped him, and I made his day. So sometimes it's just little things like that are super rewarding. So, but big picture, it's just about helping people. That's what's the best about this industry, I feel like, this field.
Chantel?
I would say for me, it's the ever-changing and ever-evolving work within the D&I field. And so for me, it's also being able to interact. Like I said, my role is outside of HR, even though this is a typical HR function, is being to work with various internal stakeholders in developing strategy and executing on those strategic priorities, and then working with our external partners. So for me, I kind of get the best of both worlds.
Thank you, Chantel. Jerry?
Probably two things. Number one is just I love our team here, the people I get to come and work with. I've got such a great group, and like I said, we're a really diverse group, which actually makes it more fun. But we've got a culture here where we can have fun with each other, we can challenge each other, and they're great people to work with. I'm very fortunate to have the team I do. But then from kind of a core work standpoint, the one of the great things about staff, and I talked about, the biggest challenge is the people who are unwilling to help themselves, and how kind of disappointing that can be. But on the other hand, this line of business gives you the opportunity to really change people's lives. I mean, and there's not that many industries where you can say, I'm the person, I found them the right job. Because a lot of people come to us because they don't know how to put it all together. They don't know how to say, well, I feel like I need to make this much, but I need it to be in this area because I have limited transportation, or my spouse works second shift, so I need to have something that's going to work because we've got kids, and they have a hard time putting all that together, and so they remain unemployed. When we can find them something that is the right fit for them and they take advantage of it, they're unbelievably grateful, and it makes all the challenges that you have disappear, because it's an awesome thing.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jerry. Just last call for any attendees who have questions. We haven't had anything new come in, but does anybody have, Julia or Jerry or Chantel, do you have anything additional to add, or any ending remarks for these kiddos?
I would say the students that ask questions, or the people that ask questions, always stand out.
I like it.
I'll just go on and stress what Chantel said about communication skills. I think because so much has moved to electronic communication, and you guys are at an age group that I don't know, you probably can't remember when you didn't have a phone in your hand, and that has become such a traditional means of communication now. But once you get into the workplace, the people who can communicate their thoughts, can communicate across, as Julia said, a lot of different levels, be able to communicate to different types of people within an organization, and have the same thing on the written side. Easy to differentiate yourself, really is.
So we do have one question. Caitlin asked, what is something important that I should know when starting a business or working for a large company? Anyone want to take that?
I'll take it from one perspective. One of the things, like I said, you want to work for a company that considers you an asset. So find a way when you're doing your interviewing, and always remember that you're interviewing the company as much as they're interviewing you. So you want to find a company that has the values that fit you, that actually follow the values that they state on their website. Do the research on the company. That's probably the thing that popped in my mind when I had that question. As far as owning a company, Jerry can answer that question.
So if you're going into, oh, I'm sorry, Chantel, did you have something? Okay.
Sorry, Jerry. We're almost out of time. So can you make the answer amazing in 30 seconds?
Amazing. I would say if you go in to make the decision to start your own business, you kind of have to especially if you came from a corporate job, because corporate jobs feel very secure at times, and it's hard to walk away. But when you do, you've got to put your blinders on, kind of say, you always say, burn your boats, whatever, you know, so that you can't go back, and keep moving forward. You're going to incur obstacles. They're going to happen, but just keep moving forward, knowing that failure is really not an option. I mean, I tell you, that's what got us through our first couple of years, is when there was no going back.
Perfect. Well, I know, thank you so much, Julia and Jerry and Chantel, for your time, and for all of the attendees for their time. That's all the time we have today in this session. I hope everyone in the audience enjoyed hearing about one of the thousands of many career opportunities that exist here in Kansas City, Missouri. Please take a moment when it'll pop up on your screen to fill out the survey. That way we can ensure that we are bringing you the most helpful and relevant content, and to find any more information on the content today. And this webinar, again, is being recorded, so you will have access to that at nebaworkskc.org for anyone who is looking for that. But thank you so much, and we hope everyone has a great rest of their day.